Good evening.
Hey,
I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight for our second town hall meeting with our final candidate with the superintendent selection. I want to thank for all of those who came out last night. Thank you for coming out again, and all those who are coming out for the first time tonight. I want to thank you. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Well, we know that finding a district leader is a very, very, very serious situation. Someone who is at the helm to make a deep and lasting impact for children and to prepare them for an ever changing world, ever changing technological world. And I think you guys are on the precipice of something great. So hopefully tonight we can glean from this candidate to find out if he's the person that we should select to lead this great district. So with that said, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Bell and his opening statement, and then we'll start the Q&A process.
thank you, Dr. Milton. Hopefully everyone can hear me. First and foremost, let me start by saying thank you. But for you, I would not be here. But for you, I would not be here. What do I mean? There's a purpose to everything. There's a reason things occur. When I left here 2.5 years ago, I had no idea that I would be back here. You and our children are the reason I'm back. Thank you. That's my first statement. A little bit about who I am and what I'm all about. This is my 30th year in education. I know my youthful appearance defies that number 30, but 5 years I taught 8th grade American history. Loved it. Then that administration bug hit me. It bit me. This is my 25th year as an administrator, my 11th year as a central office administrator. Good days, bad days, you name it. But it's all about the children. Okay? Good days or bad. If I get a thank you for going above and beyond or not, it matters not because it's for the children. What am I all about? I was trying my best to kind of formulate a couple of weeks ago my best way of explaining to you who I am and what I'm all about. So here's my attempt. First and foremost, we have an epidemic on our hands. Be that from a literacy standpoint, a mathematics standpoint, or any number of standpoints. We have an epidemic on our hands. If we are to successfully overcome all of the ills that impact our students, we must, because this is what I'm all about, coming together, listening respectfully, coming up with solutions that will hopefully, prayerfully impact in a positive way our students' outcomes. Because it goes without saying, no house divided can stand. Okay? We need to come together as a community. We must. That's what I'm all about. Bringing the community together, coming up with solutions that impact our students. For those of you who can remember Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, there's a little part in there. If you really listen carefully to his speech and really internalize what he said, there is a fierce urgency of now. Let me say that one more time. There is a fierce urgency of now. We have an epidemic, especially among our young African American boys. Okay? I can sit here and espouse all the data until your eyes roll. We know. We know. The question becomes, what are we willing to do as a community to successfully impact in a positive way our young students, our young Black boys? Okay? We're talking about the future of our students in our country, if you think about it. This is a serious matter. Those of you who've worked with me in the past, because I was here for 8 years before I left, went to Syracuse, you know I'm all about the business of educating our students. Some may say I take accountability too strongly. Well, we only get one shot at educating our students. We must take it seriously. Egos must be left at the door. Because the question becomes, what if that were your child? What would you want? What would you do? Think about it from that personal standpoint. That's what Jerry Bill is about, bringing serious solutions along with you, the community. We can't do it by ourselves. We need each other if we're going to do this the right way to help our children. Okay? So I didn't intend to take this moment to preach, but I wanted you to get a better, more holistic idea of who I am and what I'm all about. It's about saving the lives of our children. We can do that through, ELA, math, science, social studies, and all the others. Okay? But it's going to take all of us working together, hand in hand, if we're going to seriously tackle the issues facing our young people today. So, with that said, thank you for allowing me to pontificate what Jerry Bill is all about, and I'll sit back and hopefully give some salient responses to these questions that are coming my way. All right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you.
Dr. Bell.
Yes, sir.
Educating many of the children in Peoria public schools is a matter of life or death. What does that mean to you?
Well, here again, thank you for the question, Dr. Milton. That means we don't have a moment to waste. We don't have a moment to waste. Because as I said a moment ago, what if this were your child? What would you want? What would you do? We need to really, I'm going to give you another example. Take a look at things such as our curriculum. Okay? So I'm going to have a curriculum audit done. Are we, in our materials, our curriculum materials, do we have representation of students? Okay? Honestly, answer that question to yourselves. Are our students bored? Not because of our wonderful teachers, not because of that, but they don't see themselves represented in the materials. So why even come and listen and participate when it doesn't look or sound or act like them? Why? So we have to take a look at that. But above all, Dr. Milton, I will say it this way. We need our parents, other caregivers, grandparents, uncles, aunts, to help us help them. I had the great fortune of, kind of helping with Parent University the past 7 years that I was here of the 8. And, it always pleased me when we had families coming out to parent universities, because that was our hook, if you will, our vehicle to get parents in to help us help their children. So I would say, in addition to the curriculum piece, having opportunities for more parent universities or parent engagement activities, so we can, again, positively impact our students, because there's a fierce urgency of now. If there's one thing I want you to take away from tonight, there's a fierce urgency of now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Bell, how would you, as superintendent, address the disparities in resources between North Side schools and South Side schools? Resources like facilities, extracurricular activities, AVID, and AP classes. Example, Manual has no AVID and has 2 AP classes. RHS has AVID plus 19 plus AP classes. How would you address those inequities?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I would have to find out specifically why. Why are the schools organized and set up the way they are in terms of the curriculum? There has to be a reason. So I would definitely have to find out the reason why. I mean, perhaps, people in the district already know. If I can form a committee, perhaps I can get the answer to those questions. But how would I specifically tackle the inequities in terms of the distribution of, courses over our high schools, or even from north, south, here in Central Park? Finding out specifically what is being offered, why it's being offered and not being offered in other schools. Forming a committee.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Bell, how would you partner with businesses and the community to ensure strong careers for PPS graduates can commit on the importance? Can you comment on the importance of workforce development?
Sure, absolutely. It's very important, because not all students are going to go to college, and we have to have pathways for students to explore so they can be contributing members of society, productive contributing members of society. Specifically, I would love to come and meet with members of the Peoria Chamber of Commerce, pick their brains. Go to the Rotary Club, pick their brains, and just simply ask, what can we do together to offer, for an example, more internships, more externships? What can we do to have more of your workers come in and mentor our students? Perhaps those have already been done. I seriously doubt I see the fruition of those efforts. And so I would like to pursue those so that we can ensure that we have that symbiotic relationship with our business partners out in the community, or as we say in Syracuse, our CBOs, community business organizations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Bell, what plan do you have to reach out to HBCUs for recruitment to our district for teaching staff, et cetera?
Yes. Well, thank you for that question, because for those who do not know, I'm a proud alumnus of a HBCU, Philander Smith, now University, used to be college when I was there, in Little Rock, Arkansas. So first and foremost, ensure that we have opportunities to take field trips, have our students to come down or go there to see the HBCUs, or just as importantly, hire additional recruiters so that they can go down to the HBCUs and have the opportunity to meet with potential teachers in the job fairs. So just having those relationships with the HBCUs, the councils, and then partnering with them to have recruiters go and see them.
High school fine arts is always a topic, and it's a national topic across the country. Can you talk about the importance of having reliable programs that are strong in middle and elementary schools? And what is your vision for equitable K-12 fine arts programs throughout the district?
Yeah. Thanks. It starts with making sure that we have an equitable distribution of teachers in the fine arts. We definitely, we know Peoria High School Central, is our fine arts high school, and at least Fort Allen at the moment, well, it used to be the middle school component for fine arts. Why not just thinking out loud here, why not have an opportunity to ask the other schools if they would like to be a fine arts school? Why not? Perhaps in their budgets, we can get more equipment, more teachers, and more professional development so that we can have opportunities to explore the expansion, of fine arts. So looking at it from a standpoint of equability, just making sure that we have an opportunity to explore those opportunities to ensure that students on the north side as well as the south side have those same avenues available to them.
Okay, great. And safety is always at the forefront of everything. Mm-hmm. What about crossing guards and making sure that children are safe in terms of walking away from school or coming to school? Can you talk about that, expound on that a little bit?
Sure. The safety, and before I specifically talk about that, and I should have touched on it earlier, but I'm going to do it now since it's on my mind. Educating, nurturing, and protecting children is paramount of what I'm all about. The safety aspect, in terms of safety guards, we need to make sure that every crossing guard is available where they're needed. If that means ensuring that, more money and training is provided to our safety department to ensure we have safety guards where they're needed and they're trained, we're going to do that, because the importance is making sure children are not harmed walking to school or walking home from school. So we definitely want to make sure that our crossing guards, we have plentiful supply of crossing guards and that they're trained to do the job to the best of their abilities.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Bell, this next question is a twofold question. Number one, how would you hold schools accountable and understand the difference between them?
Okay. Well, it's all about making sure that everyone understands what we're asking of them. Let me expound on what I'm talking about. If we have evaluations, mid-year and end-of-year summative evaluations, we have to make sure that everyone understands the rubrics. If they understand that, they know going in what it's all about at the end of the school year in terms of the evaluation piece. For an example, let me share a little bit more about that. If we have educators in the building, principals specifically, who are not taking seriously the accountability pieces of ensuring that rigorous instruction is occurring, then we have to look at that administrator in terms of why. Why are you not taking the evaluation piece seriously? Because all the evaluation piece is an opportunity to have a reflection, a conversation with the teacher and say, how can we strengthen your instructional practices? Well, if you go to another side of town and that principal is doing the right thing the right way in terms of expounding on the rubric and taking evaluation seriously, making sure we have a real good conversation about it, go back in and see the implementation of those suggestions, then for me, that is an opportunity to ensure that we have an opportunity so that both sides, north, south, are being given the same opportunity to share what the rubric says in terms of the evaluation piece.
Second part of the question, how will you support building administrators with the demanding workload that we have?
Mentorship, coaching. I've had the pleasure when I was the executive director of middle schools of working with retired district administrators as well as retired principals to come in and work with our, lesser than, experienced principals. And that was a great way to help build their skill set. So making sure that we have opportunities for mentorship, coming in and helping our principals grow is a better way, and I think, to grow their skill set and help their teachers grow as instructional leaders.
Another two-part question. As a potential superintendent, will you be supporting and providing guidance to homeschoolers who are transitioning to the public school environment?
Think about that question. The short answer is yes. Now, how can we provide support? Shadowing, having opportunities for the students to come in, and as well as the parents to come in and shadow students there in the building already. Some parents may be leery because of what they hear or what someone has told them, and until and unless they have an opportunity to see firsthand to dispute those myths, then they're going to go with what they've been told or what they believe is truly happening. So just off the top of my head, thinking, Dr. Milton, giving opportunities for students and parents to shadow students who are already there that they may know, live across the street from them, and then having opportunities to come in and interact with the staff as well as the administrators so they get a better, truer picture from their home into the actual school environment, school building.
Thank you. Second part of the question. Because of the cost of new clothes, children growing faster, and specific color shirts may be in short supply, would you consider updating the K-8 uniform policy to all solid color or striped polos or Oxfords, but keep the pants, skirts, shorts, etc. the same?
Interesting question. First and foremost, that is a policy that the school board enacts, not the superintendent. What I can do as superintendent is bring together those who are interested, our K-8, pre-K-8 students and parents, and ask them what are their thoughts. But I, as superintendent, that's out of my realm of responsibility, outside of my realm of supervision. That's for the school board to decide in terms of school uniforms. But I can opine like anyone else and give perhaps, anecdotal, information or data. But ultimately, it's up for the school board to decide.
Thank you. What are your views on teacher recruitment and retention?
Well, first and foremost, it's important. We must recruit all the time. And when we go out into the public, we're recruiting, believe it or not. How we represent the schools, the district, when we, are out in the stores or wherever, airport, we are representing a profession. And if we encounter those individuals, young people who, or, mid-career individuals who are considering, coming into the education profession, let's be honest with them. Tell them it's long hours, it's arduous work, but it's good work, because you're impacting the lives of children. Retention, I would love to continue having opportunities where, we have, retreats during the summer as a faculty, or having them to come in and, see us teach, and then perhaps afterwards, socialize at, restaurant or something, enjoy the company so they can ask us outside of the environment, the school environment. So what is this teaching thing really all about? Do you really, really get the summers off, or are you doing professional development, enhancing your skills? So recruiting, having them come in and see us, and wherever they see us at the airport, what have you, just tell them what we do. On the weekends, I write lesson plans, I grade papers, I write, my lessons Sunday evening, and have to make those adjustments come Monday morning. But then again, I'm going to have to do what's necessary for my students to learn. So recruitment, retention, that's important. And I will definitely make sure it's a priority in my administration.
Great. Dr. Bell, what is the position you have about revisiting the calendar? Another two-part question.
Well, here again, First and foremost, the ultimate decision is that of the board regarding the calendar. But we, as the citizens, the taxpayers, can definitely give our opinions about how that calendar should look, whether we should revert back to the traditional calendar or keep, the modified calendar we have now. Data. Data drives, I always think this is important, data should drive the decision. So how do we gather that data? Through surveys, one-on-one discussion, focus groups, whatever means or methods are needed in order to gather people's thoughts and opinions regarding the calendar, if we should revert back to traditional or keep what we have, that should be done so that we get everyone's thoughts in writing and then present that to the school board so they can make the ultimate decision.
Second part, how do you plan to increase community voices being heard? One of the top markers of success is parent involvement. Exactly. Please advise.
Yeah. I kind of touched on a little bit earlier with parent universities, but I'm also a proponent of making sure that we have other opportunities, such as every school having their very own parent university, or having opportunities for parents to come in as reading buddies, lunch buddies, just providing spaces so that parents feel welcome, wanted, and making a positive contribution there at the school. So I'm all open. And by the way, here again, you want to always hear directly from the parents. What do you want? Because we think we may have an idea, but the families may say, no, that's why I stayed away in the first place. So, and of course, just making them feel welcome.
Okay, very good. Thank you. According to the most recent Illinois State Report Card, our district proficiency scores are ELA 28%, math 18%. Please identify 2 strategies you would implement to improve our students' achievement scores.
Yeah. Here again, we have to face reality. We have to face reality. One strategy that we definitely need to pursue is a curriculum audit. Are what we teaching in our classrooms align to what the test is asking of our students? Okay. Other than a curriculum audit, we need to make sure that we have opportunities for extended the school day, before school or after school. Because not all children learn at the same time, the same pace, and we definitely want to provide those spaces where at the beginning of the school day or at the end of the school day, students have extra time to make sure they're sharpening those skills. So that's what I would do here again, just making sure that we look at the curriculum, is it aligned, and then making sure that we provide extra time for our students to really learn what we're supposed to be teaching them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
3-part question.
Wow.
We're working our way to 10-part.
Yeah.
Dr. Bell, would you address the low reading levels of Peoria public school students?
How much time do I have? No, seriously. It kind of goes back to what I shared earlier, but I'm going to put a different twist on it. For those of you who remember former President George W. Bush, he had a statement, and it was so profound I still remember it to this day. The soft bigotry of low expectations. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to go there. If we, as a school community, do not take the time to learn for an example, the science of reading in all its tenets. Let's provide professional development in that. But we must at first acknowledge the fact, perhaps I need a little help to learn how to teach literacy, reading, phonemic awareness, you name it. So, along with making sure that we are truthful to thine own self, I would also make sure that we understand that literacy is the foundational skill needed for all the other courses. We cannot and we should not allow students to go on when we know for ourselves they can either barely read or they cannot comprehend what they read. Now, those are, for me, the foundational acknowledgement that we must do things differently. If that means, I as a teacher, teaching Jerry during my lunch break on occasion, or perhaps, having Jerry come in and see me on a Saturday or something, you'd be compensated for it. But that demonstrates your commitment, I would think, your commitment to ensuring that Jerry is exposed to those strategies, that knowledge base to help Jerry learn in terms of his literacy. Because as a bottom line, Dr. Milton, we have to admit, evidently what we've been doing hasn't been working, or we would have a higher literacy rate. Now, perhaps you don't want to hear those truths as I see them, but that's who I am. That's what I'm all about. Now you have a couple other parts of that question, but it's hit me, Dr. Milton, that as former President Bush said, the soft bigotry of low expectations. If I don't teach him, his next grade level teacher will teach him. No, you have them. Okay? That's your baby for that moment. As I said earlier, and I'll reiterate again, what if that were your child? Would you want your child's teacher to take the extra time to help Jerry learn to read and comprehend? I would think, as responsible parents, caregivers, that yes, we would say, whatever it takes, I want to make sure that we spend the necessary time so that Jerry understands not only how to read and comprehend, but can articulate that as well. Okay? We have to raise the level of expectation and have in our mind that whatever it takes, for how long it takes, we're going to make sure that when Jerry leaves out my door at the end of the school year, I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I've done all I can do to help him. And if you can honestly look in the mirror and say, I've done that, hey, you've done your job to help Jerry learn to read. But the test scores in terms of literacy, we can do better. We have to do better. If you have ideas on how we can do that, because no one person has all the ideas, the answers, okay? Let us partner. If something worked back in the day and you think we can, tweak it and make it more, useful today to help our students, let's have that discussion. I'm approachable. Let's do that. Okay? That's the first part, the answer to your first question.
Sir, second part, There are over 70% brown and black students in PPS, but the teachers do not represent over 79%. How will you recruit more so that there can be a representation for students, teachers?
For me, that question, thank you for the question. That question to me, Dr. Milton, speaks about our commitment to recruiting students who are representative of our 75% student body population. I'm a firm believer, and if you put it in writing and hold yourself, that accountability piece, hold yourself to it, then eventually it'll get done. Why not make sure that it's in our strategic plan? And by the way, for those of you who aren't aware, this coming June will be the sunset time for our current 5-year strategic plan. We need to start thinking about what our priorities are for the next 5-year strategic plan. Why not have a component in there about recruitment and retention of those teachers who are representative of our 75% student body population? Because as I told the board during that first interview, representation matters. Cultural representation matters. I'm a firm believer in it. And so here again, make sure we codify it by putting it in our upcoming strategic plan so we can make sure we're intentional about what we're doing to recruit. And I'm not above, poaching, good teachers, from other districts because of the wonderful salary and benefits that we have here, So, let not my, answer here dissuade you at all. I'm not above making sure we recruit, those teachers from other places who, for whatever reasons, are not satisfied with their current state. And, they're more than welcome to come on to PPS, so we can utilize their knowledge and expertise.
Thank you.
Yes.
Third part, how do you plan to fill your cabinet? We know that the top tier leadership of an organization is vital, and that determines the success of school systems. How do you plan to fill your cabinet?
Sure. First and foremost, those individuals who are not, how can I say this, are not of the mind that all students can learn with the right resources and supports. If those individuals are not of the like mind as myself, that we must have an establishment of respectful relationships with ongoing two-way communication, they need not look my way. Okay? Oh, that's something else I guess I should have told you about me. I'm very transparent and very honest, very blunt. As a sidebar, I firmly believe that sometimes we have to be truthful and just say it like it is. Whether you agree or not, like it or not, that's the truth. Okay? So here again, I definitely, I want to make sure that, those who aspire to be a member of my cabinet are, willing to make sure that students come first, that they are the center of our decisions, and it's not a popularity contest. It's all about whether or not they have the interests of our students and their families coming first. And if they can do that and demonstrate, and I can see their body of work, then yes, we can have that conversation. But no, if you do not, you just see it as an opportunity to, make a higher salary or whatever, need not look this way. We are in the business of saving lives. I'm going to go back to that until I'm blue in the face. If you're not about the business of helping our students become better equipped to face all of the ills, you need not think about being a part of my cabinet.
Okay, we're going to, I'm calling on an order tonight. We're going to call on Davy Day to come to the middle mic.
Dr. Bell, my question surrounds research is showing us that in the aftermath of the pandemic, we are on the precipice of a mental health crisis among our youth, the likes of which we've not seen
Yep.
in a long time. Rising rates of anxiety and depression and other attention deficit disorders.
Yep.
What would be your plan to address and approach this crisis as we see ourselves getting ready to face it?
Yeah, definitely to partner with our hospitals here in Peoria, our physician offices, as well as our colleges and universities, so that we can have opportunities for the psychologists and social workers to come in and meet with our students and their families. Making sure as a priority of the budget that we have enough monies set aside to hire additional mental health workers, case workers, so that all of the needs of our students are met. And more importantly, or just as importantly, I would say, is, and I should have said this too, I firmly believe that from an SEL standpoint, social emotional learning standpoint, that we must start from within and not from the without, because we want to make sure from a moral standpoint we're doing what's right from our kids. We want them to build that confidence and that self that ability to self-regulate, if you will, from within, and not bring in a bunch of programs that we put to the side a year or two later, but being very intentional and strategic, making sure that it's in the budget, that we hire additional personnel who can help our students. And again, as I started, I'll end it by saying partnering with those institutions that currently have psychologists, social workers, so that we can utilize their services.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also at the middle mic, we will have Brittany Cotter. Brittany?
Hello. You kind of already touched on this, but because I am a parent of children in our middle school age range and because it's so important to us,
Yes.
I'm going to ask it again. So currently there are inequities among our district schools. Our students deserve the same resources and opportunities, no matter which neighborhood they live in and what school they attend. If all of our schools provide the best tools for learning, all of our students can be equipped with the chance to thrive both in and beyond school. One such example of inequity at our middle school level is, while RGA has a science lab in their building for student learning, my child's middle school science teacher has to ask parents to donate pipettes and beakers and other such supplies that are standard for science experiments. My family is happy to donate supplies to our classrooms, but we want to make sure that all of the staff in our district schools have what they need to teach efficiently.
Exactly.
Does each school in our district not come equipped with the same tools needed for learning? How can all students achieve the same high education when resources vary building to building? The question that I have for you is, do you think that all students should be given the same resources and opportunities to learn, no matter which school, no matter which neighborhood, and no matter which socioeconomic class they belong to? If so, would you commit to fighting for all of our students to have access to high-level learning, not just certain students? And if you are chosen as our next superintendent of the Peoria School District, what actionable steps can we count on you to deliver this promise?
Thank you. I love your question. Thank you for the question. The short answer is yes. Yes. Every student across the city of Peoria deserves the same access to resources as any other student. That's the short answer. Will I commit to that as your next superintendent? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want you to hold me to it. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? Here again is our curriculum audit, taking a look at our budget. Oh, by the way, see how these, once I start answering, they come into my head? For those of you who do not know or have never heard of the term forensic audit, get ready to hear a lot about it. Because as your next superintendent, I am going to demand a forensic audit. Now, we are ISB, Illinois State Board of Education, in terms of our, evidence-based funding model, says that Peoria Public Schools is funded at 74% adequacy. My question is, what about the other 26% to make us 100% so that we can get those resources? I will advocate with our state legislators as well as with the State Department to ensure that we get our other 26%, because students in other parts of the state of Illinois, I mean no harm to them, they get what they get, but we need ours. Our students not only need those resources, they deserve them. If the state legislature says from an evidence-based funding model that we should have 100% and we're at 74%, something's wrong. Okay? So in order to make sure that every dollar that does come in is accounted for and spent properly according to what we say we were going to do by way of our strategic plan, that's where I'm going to have that forensic audit. Okay? I want everything above board, transparent, so we can follow every dollar, be that grant dollar, Title I, Title III dollars. It matters not. I want to make sure that every dollar that came through the door is accounted for and has gone to the proper place that we said we were going to place it. So hopefully I answered your question.
Just to make all of you aware, we have the future President of the United States in our midst. A seventh grader by the name of Warren. He's asking the most important question of the night.
All right.
He says, why do we have to have school uniforms?
That's a very good question. Is it Warren again?
Yes,
Warren
Cotter.
Warren, the short answer is there's research that goes back years that says, we can lessen the likelihood of bullying if we have students that come through the doors dressed, similar or alike. Kids will not have those opportunities to tease each other because of their inability to buy, expensive clothing and the like. And so to make it more equitable and lessen the likelihood of bullying, research says that we should have, school uniforms. Here again, diametrically opposite, you have those who say, it doesn't matter, what types of clothes, what's in you is going to eventually come out, regardless of what you're wearing. Here again, that's, Warren, an opportunity for the school board to weigh in, but I can definitely, gather the information, the data to present to the school board, but ultimately whether or not a school uniform policy exists is up to the board. And by the way, my current position in Syracuse, New York, we just had a committee of parents and students. I love when students are involved because you get the real voices. We looked at research, looked at the data, and they overwhelmingly suggested to the school board that they not adopt a school uniform policy. It was about financials and all of that stuff, but it's not just here in Syracuse, it's around the country, or Peoria, I said Syracuse, Peoria, but it's also there in Syracuse as well. Okay. Thank you for the question, Warren.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bell.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to call to the center mic Dan Walker. Dan, he's going to ask a question around discipline modified school day.
Okay.
Dr. Bowtie.
I gave it a rest for the evening.
I was,
Everybody's
for those
asked
of you
me
who
that
don't know, I was
today.
on the school board for 5 years. I was here when Dr. Bell was here, and I was disappointed that you didn't have your bow tie on today. So if you
Mr.
were-
Walden,
you were a fashion plate.
Listen, let me tell you, I represent, you know what I'm saying? And so I went to Peoria High, Sterling, and Annie Jo Gordon. I would say, oh Lord, maybe half or not, 3/4 of the people there asked me about a bow tie. I said I had to give it a rest just for the day. But once I am superintendent, I promise you, take it to the bank. I will be breaking out the bow ties.
Well, I started off with that little softball, but I've got a couple of them. You had addressed part of this issue.
Sure.
But I do want to know your position as the leader of this district on the modified schedule. I'd also like to know your position on social promotion, and also like to have another question for you on discipline. I've been, when I was on the board, still am, a strong advocate of our SROs. Our campus police have done a good job. Every day, every week, those SROs write a report, they turn them in to the chief, and then he turns them in to the superintendent. Those reports tell you how many students there have been an issue in that school and what the issues have been. That's not been forwarded to the school board. So I'm saying it's easy to say I'm going to let the school board make that decision, but they have to have the data. And right now they're not getting that data. Will you insist on getting that data, for one thing? The other part, when I was on the board, there was a board president, I think one of the best we had, named Dan Adler, and we brought to the board research on the starting time for schools, and it showed that students that are middle school and high school do better if they're the later starting time. And that was on a 4-3 vote that we changed not doing that. I would just like to know your position on those things. One, on the thing, people know on the modified schedule, that came about because the superintendent directed it. That was not a board directive, that was a superintendent directive. So if you're going to be the superintendent, what is going to be your position on that?
Okay. Well, you've given me several questions there, and I don't have an ink pen and pad to write things down, so bear with me here if I can hopefully remember succinctly what you asked. You asked about my, I guess, personal opinion on modified calendar. I am of the mind that whatever the majority, the consensus of our parents say that they need for their children's education, I also am of like mind. Okay.
And you had one other thing. I have also substituted in the district for the last couple of years, and there are two definite things that I've got coming away from that. One is we have too many classes that are overcrowded. You know, when you have a 7th and 8th grade class with over 32, 33 kids, you can't do learning because all it takes is a minor disruption that causes that to be a problem.
Correct.
Our teachers are doing what they can, but when you've got that many kids, it's difficult. It's difficult to handle that. The other thing on a positive side is that we've seen retired teachers come back and work with students on a one-on-one basis. I applaud them. I think that's been one of the few things that we've seen that have really made a difference and stuff with it. And I'd recommend that you continue that practice as they go on.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's so ironic that you mentioned about a retired teacher coming back. When I visited Annie Jo Gordon this afternoon, it just so happens there was a retired teacher from there, Annie Jo Gordon, who was there to help out the students, the other teachers as well. So yes, I'm a firm believer that if we have opportunities for retired persons to come in, if their schedules allow, please come on in. We can definitely utilize your services, your skill sets, and your knowledge.
I knew I threw a lot at you, but the
You did.
research on the starting time, I would like you to look at as as a superintendent, if you are the person that gets that. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Bell,
Yes, sir.
back to the written question. It is the written goal of this district to maintain class sizes, as Mr. Walker just indicated. that maintain a positive learning environment for our students. To date, the district has yet to meet those goals in every classroom. As superintendent, what is your plan to ensure that every classroom meets the goals this district has agreed concerning class size?
Thank you for the question. Here again, collective bargaining agreement strongly suggests what the number should be based on the grade level, if I can recall correctly, because by the way, as executive director of middle schools, I and the other two executive directors met with the union's leadership to discuss class sizes. And so, one, making sure that we are unambiguous in terms of what the language in the collective bargaining says must be done. Secondly, finding ways to lower the levels so that we can have true learning and teaching going on in classes. Does that mean bringing in, perhaps as we used to do, and I don't know if they still do it or not, paraprofessionals to assist, or opening up other sections and having our students go into those sections as well? Whatever we need to do to lessen the load of the teacher in the classroom, I'm willing to have that discussion, that conversation, because no one wants to go into a classroom with 33, 34 students, and I don't know how you can get that many desks in a classroom, but I guess it's being done. But here again, let's take a closer look, have a fruitful conversation, and ensure that we are implementing those tactics that will enable our teachers to really, really be able to teach by lowering the number of students in those classes.
I said it last night that Cammie is a signature decipher, so thank you again. Reverend Darnell Starks, can you please come to the middle mic?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. Yes, Dr. Bell, I was really glad to hear you say that you would be, if you're chosen to be the superintendent, reaching out to the wider community and building relationships with them.
Yep.
And I would just say I would hope that would include the faith-based community as well, because I believe we have things to offer. But that's not my question. My question revolves around AI. I believe that we are in the midst of an AI revolution that will alter our society, much like the internet revolution did. And my question is two-part. One, would you agree with that? And second, what would you do as superintendent to make sure that our students are equipped to compete in this new world?
Wonderful questions. First, let me say, correct me if I'm wrong, but our state legislature just promulgated a law that tells us how we can implement AI, making sure it's useful for our students and not used as a tool to teach and all the others. So correct me if I'm wrong, and because here again, I live in New York and been away for 2.5 years. Have we had recent legislation to come through that says this is how we're going to utilize artificial intelligence?
That I'm not sure of yet.
Okay. I believe so, and I could be wrong, but I believe so during my, research to get here, because that's a part of my belief that we should expose our students, our children, to artificial intelligence. Not necessarily that they, go into a lab and, create something from an artificial intelligence standpoint. Why not have students understand AI from the standpoint of being an entrepreneur? Why not bring in those businesses that utilize AI so they can show and demonstrate to our kids, and they can have hands-on tactical or tactic understanding of AI, how we can actually utilize it, not just writing papers and whatnot, but like Siri, that's artificial intelligence, been around a while. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, I'm a firm believer, proponent of utilizing those technologies that currently exist, because our students should be made aware of its usage and, of course, of its misuses as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
You're welcome.
Lori LaFawn, she wants to come to the middle mic, and she's going to ask a couple questions around IEPs and also 504 and students with disabilities.
Welcome back, Dr. Bell.
Thank you, Ms. LaFawn.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
As you know, I'm a proud district employee.
Yes.
But tonight I'm asking a question as a very proud district parent.
Okay.
I'm a parent of a student who has a 504 plan due to a medical disability. It's not an IEP. I'm curious to know what kind of oversight you as a superintendent would provide to those at the building level who are supervising, administering, and ensuring that 504 plans and IEPs are followed with diligence and equity. I know that funding for those things is not always there. And our experience has been that there have been hurdles in making sure that at an administrative level, that 504s are prioritized and followed. And I'd like to know what your view is on how superintendent can provide that insight and that oversight for buildings.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, Ms. LaFawn, you and I both know with 504 plans, it's law.
Yes.
We have to follow the law.
Yes.
I love my teachers, I love my principals, but I'm not going to jail for them not following the law. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So the accountability piece, why not have that one-on-one meeting with the director of special education in my office to explain to me or share with me, better way of saying it, to share with me where we are, give me an update to ensure that 504 plans are actually being implemented. So I'm committed to having those weekly discussions and updates so that if I need to step in as superintendent and make things happen as the law dictates, I'll make it happen.
Would you be willing to potentially provide an opportunity for parents to share their experiences with you as a platform for improvement? If you're a parent of a child with an IEP or a 504.
Absolutely, yes. I want to hear the parent's voice. Yes, absolutely. I want to hear from your perspective, firsthand what's going on. Yes.
Thank you. It's really nice to see you back in Peoria.
It's glad to be back. Thank you.
The board president, Dr. Wilson, has spoken. He said that we only have time for 2 more questions.
Okay.
But I'm going to try to be defiant and get 3 in there, but hopefully.
And I'll be pithy in my
because we have a lot more, and these are really good questions. I wish we can ask all of them, and I do apologize for.
By the way, and I know we have to go, but see how when you start talking, you start thinking and remembering, what you wanted to say 2 weeks ago when we get to this point. This opportunity here, this town hall, is the first of many that we're going to do when I'm superintendent, okay? If I am going to be impactful and not just sit here and pontificate, then we need to have that continuous, ongoing, two-way mode of communication. I need to hear from you what's working, what's not, what we can do to make it better. Sorry to interrupt, Doc.
No problem. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Bell, this is the second year that the audit has not been completed on time. As superintendent, what would you do to ensure this does not continue to happen?
It goes back to what I stressed earlier, accountability. No one is above accountability under my watch. I know we have to follow what due process tells us must be followed, but there's no excuse, absolutely no excuse to be late. And I know, some of my principals will tell you this. If you just ask them. I am one who holds myself accountable, and I expect others to hold themselves accountable. I give grace. Believe you me, I give grace when things happen. You couldn't make a deadline. I give grace, but not 2 years in a row. Accountability in terms of the evaluation and perhaps possibly up to and including recommendation for termination. That's inexcusable for our audit to be late 2 years in a row. You know it's coming. Why haven't you made this a priority? Or let me say it differently and more politically correct. I'm going to put that on me. Why haven't I, as superintendent, held you more accountable? Okay? The bottom line is, it should have been turned in. State law says it must. Why is it late? I need to know so we can make sure it doesn't happen again, whether you're in that chair or not.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Bell, what is your stance on cookie cutter curriculums for all the schools, specifically Algebra 1 being forced on all eighth graders regardless of readiness?
I'm a firm opponent of cookie cutter curricula and all the others. One size does not fit all. Students, matriculate at different rates. We cannot force, that square into that peg, that round hole. So, no, I am a opponent of cookie cutter curricula. Seventh graders, eighth graders taking algebra, if they're not ready, why set them up for frustration? Why? Here again, we can use scaffolding to get them ready. We can come in before school, after school, during our lunch. If we're committed to teaching them algebra when they are ready to learn algebra. We were at Sterling, and I leaned over and asked a young man, because it was in an algebra class, and I said, "Do you understand this?" He said, "No." All he did was copy the formula off the board onto his paper. And I just simply leaned over, "Hey, you get this? You understand?" He said, "No." And he had that look of dejection on his face. No, we can't have that happen where our students feel as though there's something wrong with them because we're forcing something on them in terms of a course. Yes, algebra is a gateway course to all the other higher level courses, but if they're not ready, they're not ready. Let's face that reality.
Okay, this is the last, I'm sorry. Okay, this is the last question of the night, Dr. Bell.
Yes, sir.
You're getting ready to face a very intense situation, final interview with the board.
Yes, sir.
So
I'm so looking forward to it.
yeah, we're gonna leave on this note.
Okay.
How would you bring more resources into the district, and how do you plan to leverage legislatures and mobilize community to make it happen?
Absolutely. Here again, I touched on it a little bit, but I'm gonna go a little bit deeper. Making sure that we have those relationships, getting out, ensuring that the association, be that the Illinois Superintendents Association, the membership, actually go and knock on the doors of the legislators, or I personally going down to Springfield, knocking on the doors of legislators, or just simply, meeting them where they are. If I catch you at the restaurant, yeah, I'm going to talk to you. You work for us. We pay your salary. And so making sure that we have opportunities to interface with the legislators so we can advocate, because as superintendent, I am the number one advocate for this district. I want everything resource-wise, money-wise, for our students. And if you're shortchanging us, we have to have a conversation. You can't hide forever. I'm gonna find you. And you're gonna give me a cogent reason why you're shortchanging our babies. That's the short answer to that response, Dr. Milton.
I want to thank each and every one of you for your time tonight. This is an incredibly important conversation. I know that the school board has a tremendous responsibility in making the proper selection that's going to lead the school district, not only throughout arduous times, but it's going to lead it to good times and to help you to become a national model. With that said, I hope everyone gets home tonight safely.